Yeah, welcome everyone to the next Keptn community meeting, starting today with a little bit of a new format. So we have all the Keptn folks here. We have the great Keptn community also joining here. And starting from today, we will have this community meeting more as an open platform, let's say, to really discuss PRs, to discuss issues, to discuss the roadmap, to have a very open discussions here, and not so much as presenting content from the Keptn team as as we call it, educational content in the form of a webinar. So we will have dedicated webinar sessions where you can learn from Keptn adopters, Keptn customers, and other Keptn users, where they are going to present something. But in this kind of Keptn community meeting, it's really a work meeting where we discuss on Keptn work items, where we discuss open issues, PRs, everything that's really developer related, roadmap discussions, and so on. So feel free to join us also in this discussion. Right now we still have this as a Zoom webinar, but I will allow everyone here also to talk. So I will click through the attendee list just in a minute, and will allow everyone also to talk. So if you want to raise your voice, if you want to ask questions, feel free to unmute yourself and to just ask the questions. For today, what we have planned is basically, we tried this new format the first time. So we will go through a couple of noteworthy issues and PRs. We have a couple of, or basically the core Keptn development team, we have listed issues here. So we will go through these issues. We will also hear a roadmap update from Johannes, and then we will also discuss the working items that are currently interesting for the next week until the next Keptn community meeting. And also we have a couple of other links here provided that we will go through in the course of this meeting. If you want to get to stay up to date also between those meetings, so this will be a weekly cadence starting from today. But if you want to stay up to date during this weekly cadence, then please join our Slack workspace for communication with the whole Keptn community. So we have also provided the link here. The link to this document is also on the Keptn community site on github.com/keptn/community. You will find all the links and also the link to this document. I can also copy the link here to the chat if I can find it. Here we go. So you can open it and bookmark it if you want. So with this, I think it was enough of introduction. So I will hand over to Christian and Johannes to walk us through the list of noteworthy issues and PRs. And while you're doing this, I will go through the attendee list. We already have a couple of folks joining, and they will also be allowed to talk and to ask questions if they want. So I will also stop my sharing. And yeah, let's see how it goes for the first time.
Thank you for the introduction, Jürgen. So in this meeting, we will present some pull requests, and this is acting like a review meeting, but we don't want to go into too much detail. So we've compiled a list of pull requests for you, and each of us will just go through our own pull requests and give you like a couple of sentences of what is happening or what has happened for this pull request. So the first one I want to show you is the Kubernetes recommended labels, which I've opened already here. The idea here was to adapt our templates that we have for our cards microservice in our Keptn examples repo to also use Kubernetes recommended labels, which kind of make it easier for certain other applications to map what this service, what this Kubernetes pod is actually doing. So for instance, we've added this cards microservice as a component API. It's managed by Keptn and it's part of SockShop. There's a couple of other labels that we can apply and that should be applied in the future, which are linked up here. And yeah, that's all about it with this pull request. The second pull request is the CLI auto documentation, which is available. I think it's live now on the website already. This is just a deploy preview. But if you go to reference Keptn CLI commands, you get all the CLI commands listed. So for instance, Keptn let's go for the one that I actually implemented. It's Keptn generate docs. So there we go. Keptn generate docs is here, and it generates like a documentation for this command. And basically all that you can see here is auto-generated from what we've written in Cobra. So the short usage, the long usage examples, and obviously also if there's a root command, the commands, the options that are inherited from the root command. And with that being said, I'm hand it over to Florian.
All right, thank you, Christian. Let me just share my screen really quick. Do you see my complete desktop or just the Chrome?
The entire screen.
Yeah, entire screen. Yeah.
Zoom is apparently trolling me. All right, now I should see just the browser.
Yes.
Okay, I want to present two issues. Both of them concern the configuration service. So the first issue I want to present is an extension of the API for the configuration service. So previously, that component has been used to manage the configuration, as the name implies, of our Keptn projects. So that means it was responsible to manage the Git repository that holds the configuration. But recently, especially through the introduction of the new bridge, it also kind of got the responsibility of providing information of what's going on with the projects and the stages and the services within that. And that led to some performance issues because for retrieving all the information, we had to do all sorts of Git operations, so checking out the branches and pulling from an upstream repository if available, and to get the complete status of a project, we had to send a lot of requests to the configuration service to display that in the bridge. Now we have extended the endpoints, for example, the projects. So instead of just receiving just a list of a list of the names of the projects that are currently in your Keptn cluster, you now get a full-fledged overview with for each project you get still the name, then additionally the list of the stages within this project, and also the services within each stage. And for each service you get the currently deployed image and the last event types for that service. So for example, the last configuration change, last deployment, evaluation done, etc. And I don't want to go into too much detail here, but you can of course view example payloads for those endpoints in this issue. And also for each issue we have we are now going to link the pull request, so you can have a closer look at the code that was used to implement this feature. And that was the first issue. The second issue I want to show you is actually a bug fix. The code or the feature itself isn't that spectacular, but the issue overall is a good example of how feedback from our community helps us in making Keptn as robust as possible. So what happened here is one of our users had a problem with the quality gates installation, and actually it turned out that the setup was a little bit off, and Andreas Grimert identified the issue and gave good feedback on how to resolve that. But also, since the user provided us with the logs for the configuration service, we saw that something was wrong in case of an error. So specifically when a Helm repository was not, or a Helm chart was not available for a certain project. And then the configuration service crashed, and that was actually just a nil pointer reference, which was fixed and luckily identified by this user feedback. So overall, it's a nice story of how the interaction with our community helps us in increasing the quality. All right, and with that, I hand over to Ermin.
Thank you very much, Florian. I'm gonna present two features in the bridge. I will start with the heat map long list. Actually, that's fix of an issue we had when you have a long list of SLIs. In that case, or in this example, we had more than 100 SLIs in the breakdown, and there we had an issue with the list and also an issue with the heat map itself. When too many results were in there, we had the issue that, yeah, the view was broken. And what we have done is we fixed the list, especially in that case, if there are long error messages, we are now showing just an error icon, and the message itself is shown in a tooltip, and the list is no longer breaking into multiple columns, but we have just one column where you can expand the result and see all the SLIs. And the second one is the heat map itself, the problem in the heat map itself, where we had a limit of results, and that is also now fixed, as we can see in this screenshot, where we have more than 1,000 results, historical results, or in one evaluation we had more than 100 SLIs, and this is also now shown in the heat map. Yeah, and the second one is the JSON payload visualization, which was very prominent in the old version. We had one big tile for each trace in our event list, and when you clicked anywhere on this tile, the event payload expanded. And since that was not always the needed use case, we changed that to have a dedicated button in the view. When you click on this button next to the timestamp, then a modal dialog is opened with the JSON payload. So this enables also that you can easier copy that and paste it wherever you need it. Yeah, that's from my side. Thank you very much. I'm handing over to Andreas.
Cool, Ermin, thanks. So I also would like to share my screen. My first issue was to allow the reuse of an Nginx. And as you probably know, in our Quality Gates installation, we are using an Nginx at the edge of the cluster in order to accept the traffic. And with this issue, with this pull request, I've implemented a new option in the installer, which is called now ingress install option. And you have three possibilities, either to reuse Nginx, or to stop if it is already installed, or to overwrite it. And this flag here in the installer is still hidden as the check is not yet really mature. Basically, we only are checking whether there is already a namespace called Nginx, ingress Nginx. And if it is the case, for example, we can reuse the installer and create the Kubernetes ingress. This was my first issue, which I would like to show. And the second issue now helps you to debug Keptn. Before you had often do a manual log analysis, and therefore you had to enter the pods and look at their logs and so on. And now our CLI allows you to generate a support archive which contains all important information. And I would like to do this now live. So I've introduced the command generate support archive, and I'm outputting this in the current directory. And as you can see here, I'm grabbing basic information about the installer logs, the context where the kubectl is pointing to, and then I'm also retrieving all kind of Kubernetes metadata like config maps, secrets, and so on. But of course, I do not collect the content of secrets, just whether secret is available or not. We can have a look afterwards. And we do this for the Keptn namespace and also for the Keptn data store namespace, as we can see here. Okay, this support archive is now available here. And yeah, we warn you that it potentially contains sensitive data, of course, but as already said, we are not reading any secrets. And we also point you to our help Slack channel where you can ask all your questions. So now let's have a look into, oh shit, I'm now closed. Now into this archive which I generated. And you can see here, I'm collecting some metadata. Let's have a look at what's contained here. For example, yeah, I'm running on a Darwin system. I have the CLI version 0.62. The API was reachable. I have one project which is called Sockshop, which contains a single stage hardening, but no services yet, and my Keptn domain with this URL. Furthermore, to this metadata, I'm collecting all kinds of logs. For example, let's have a look into the logs of the API service. And here it is. I only did a create project and a create service. And with this functionality and with this feature in the CLI, you now have a convenient way in order to retrieve these logs. Okay, that's from my side.
Pretty cool, the general support archive. And that's perfect handover to my tasks, because I was working on making Keptn users' life easier when it comes to debugging problems in the configuration service, because what this issue and this pull request says is that it should be possible, or there should be more information when it comes to an error in the configuration service. What we saw is that there were a couple of scenarios where Git was not available, or a Git repository was not initialized, and so on. And those situations resulted in broken projects. And it was really difficult to figure out what happened. And for making life easier, we added a couple of log messages to the configuration service, and also provide now more context information. Let's have a look into the pull request. What did I do? I added a couple of log console.log log, what's going on here? Yeah, as you can see, I added a couple of log.error commands and made it now clear what command broke and what problem occurred. And this is now implemented in all handler functions for a project, service, and stage. And additionally, this issue also included a troubleshooting section in the documentation regarding this problem. And I also added this troubleshooting section to the reference troubleshooting. And here you can find a broken Keptn project. And when this problem occurs, then you will find here the instructions to fix this problem and yeah, to get around. And since I'm now here at the documentation, I will continue with my second issue. And this was focused on providing documentation for the Keptn bridge. What I did was I explained the feature to expose the bridge and to lock it down. This is the opposite of exposing the bridge. What you have to do is just run the command Keptn configure bridge -- action equals expose. Then you can expose the bridge, and the other way around is just by specifying the action lockdown. Additionally, I also provided the documentation for adding basic authentication to the bridge. Here you get the info to enable it, and further down you get the information to disable this feature. All right, this was the second issue I wanted to discuss, and this now brings us to the end of the review section. Are there any?
Just for, sorry for interrupting, but maybe we have to explain why we need the basic auth for the Keptn's bridge. I think we have not shown this yet, but there was a sneak preview when you scrolled over the documentation because it's now also available to expose the Keptn's bridge via the Keptn CLI. So if you're already familiar with Keptn, then you know that previously our preferred way was to basically do the kubectl port forward to get access to your Keptn's bridge, or to use one of our shell scripts where we just we expose the bridge via the ingress. And in this way now you can use the Keptn configure bridge CLI command to expose the bridge or to remove the bridge from the public exposure, and we call this action the lockdown. So yeah, both ways are possible, and for this we recommend you to set up basic authentication when you expose the bridge, so that the bridge is not shown publicly without authentication, but you can provide your own username and password. So it's kind of it's secured in a basic way, and it's not exposed completely public.
Yep, thanks for the clarification. I maybe was too fast scrolling over, but yeah, we now provide this feature, and when you do Keptn expose bridge, then you get a warning that you should enable basic authentication, and this warning directs you to this documentation where you can enable or disable authentication. All right, yeah. This brings us now to the end of the review. Any questions so far from the community, from someone?
I just want to highlight everyone here in this meeting is allowed to unmute him or herself. So that should be technically that should be possible for you if you want to. And also the chat is open, or the Q&A section is open, so you can also post your questions in there.
Cool. Just interrupt whenever there is a question coming in. That's perfectly fine. Otherwise, I would go on with the agenda, and this is now the time where I will talk a little bit about the roadmap of Keptn. Just prepare a couple of slides to make my life a little bit easier. It's currently Oops, it's showing on this. Let's stop sharing for a second. Okay, can you now see the screen, the roadmap?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, about a month ago, I showed you this picture where I talked about the features and building blocks for the Keptn 0.7 release. We still are heading towards this direction. Those 5 building blocks are on our roadmap and we are working on that. I also wrote the blog post about this Keptn release, about 0.7. Just go to Medium and to the Keptn publications, and there you will find my blog post where I have written down all these 5 building blocks and explained them also based on a couple of examples. And that's now pretty cool because I have the honor to announce that Keptn 0.6.2 is available. We released it about an hour ago. It's our fresh and new baby. And 0.6 already contains a couple of features from this roadmap, from the feature set of 0.7. And in more details, 0.6 has 3 main topics. And the first one is improving automation support with the API extension and deep links into the bridge. Then second topic for 0.6 was a tutorial, and this tutorial explains you how to use Argo CD for deploying services and how to use then Keptn for doing the quality evaluation and the promotion. And the third building block for this 0.6 release was enhancements in regard to debugging and bug reporting. And the features from our roadmap to 0.7 that are part of 0.6 are the Keptn Exposed Bridge and also a big portion of the Keptn Enhancement Proposal 10, which is focused on extending the CLI and API for building automation around Keptn. Helm 3.0 and the other 2 use cases are not part of 0.6.2. Okay, then let's have a look on what's done. Done for Keptn 0.7 is the topic and the building block around exposing the bridge and the Helm upgrade. There is 1 task remaining for the Keptn Enhancement Proposal 10, and also 1 is related to the Keptn Core and 1 is related to the Keptn's bridge. And the focus of the Keptn Core team for the next 2 weeks will be mainly on the use case around manual approving deployment. I will on a couple in about 2 or 3 slides I will explain and then what's the topic of that. And after that, after the manual approval use case, we will go in the direction of providing better capabilities for the self-healing use case. But this status is still backlog refinement. All right, what's missing there? What's missing for the Keptn Enhancement Proposal 10? As Florian showed us, the endpoints are available. All the endpoints for getting the project, stage, and service are there. But what's missing is the part in the Keptn CLI. And this implementation is still open to do. And what you should be possible then is just typing Keptn get project, and you will get all the information that Florian showed us in his pull request directly in the CLI. The same is true for the services and the stages. All right, then let me jump over to the use case of the manual approval of a deployment. Just a quick wrap up or reminder of what is it about. In Keptn 0.6, a deployment is automatically promoted from one stage to the next one. And folks out there, they told us that this should not be the case, especially when it comes to production deployment. There you want to have a person in place that takes care of approving a deployment or declining it. And this is the use case. For example, you want to have a stop before production and Keptn then asks for approval. And for configuring this approval, we need an additional flag or a property in the shipyard file. This is the approval strategy. Please check out my blog post. There I explain how you can use this property to configure an approval based on an evaluation result, or use it as a hard stop, like for a production environment where you want to have an approval regardless of the quality. And this use case broken down into its issues and tasks is shown here. In total, there are 7 tasks to do, but in a couple of minutes, we will go through those tasks and discuss them in more details. Just to highlight, a lot of work has to go into the gatekeeper, who is the component responsible for doing the promotion of an artifact from one stage to the next one. And also the configuration service will be or need to be touched when it comes to implementing this user story.
And sorry for interrupting, but may I interrupt you here? Because we have a lot of other content, and we kind of try to split between 2 halves in this meeting. So maybe we can, maybe you can wrap this up in 1 or 2 minutes, and then we just point the community to the resource or the roadmap site on GitHub, where they can also check this out. And then we can move on to the planning phase.
Yep, thanks for the reminder. I'm done in about 30 seconds, because what I want to show you is also the bridge makes an evolution step, and the evolution step is from a bridge that just shows information into a bridge that can be used for triggering things, and therefore we need this environment screen. And also for implementing this screen, I've broken down this user story into 4 tasks. The first one is all about adding the menu on the left side, and also the overview into this screen. Then I'm making it clickable, and when it's clickable, then it should show information when a service is out of sync, a stage is out of sync compared to its previous one. And last but not least, also the button should be there that allows you to manually trigger a deployment when there is an approval required. And that's it from my side. That's an update on the roadmap, and perfect time to go over to the next section of this meeting, which is about quick info on why we do this meeting. Christian?
Yeah, thanks for the segue. So we have a lot of things to do, obviously, but why are we actually telling you this? Because we do see the opportunity for you guys, for everyone that is listening in and joining in, to help us. So Johannes has shown us something on the roadmap, but I just want to give you a quick reminder that there is also things that are not on the roadmap, or not necessarily on the roadmap, that everyone can help with. So if you're a beginner, we have we have a list of good first issues that we believe are that you should be able to do without having too much knowledge about the source code, or that help you to get some knowledge of the source code. And we also have some issues labeled with help wanted. In addition to that, there's not too many of the help wanted one, because these are issues where we think you need a little bit more knowledge, obviously, but they should still be doable if you have some knowledge of the project. That being said, those issues that the good first ones and the help wanted ones, they are always available. Please approach us via Slack or directly in Zoom, or any other way that you can think of if you want to tackle one of those issues. And we can assign it to you, and we can help you if you have any questions, obviously. All right, with that, I will go to the working items. We have our Kanban board here with working items. Basically, we're organized in backlog items that we're going to talk about today, assigned items, that's basically as soon as we have something here assigned to someone, it moves to here. In progress, don't need to explain it, I guess, and ready for review and done should be also self-explanatory, but that kind of shows our current work that we're doing, and it also shows the work that we want to do or that we believe that should be done in the next couple of days. So we will go through all the items in the backlog now, and we would ask everyone in this Zoom meeting to just raise the hand or even the voice if they would like to implement one of those issues. Obviously, if you already have some knowledge about a certain topic, you will have an easier time implementing it. But don't hesitate to just raise your hand if you want to implement it. All right. The first issue is improve integration test for quality gates. So basically, we have some tests already in place, integration tests for quality gates. They're written in a shell script, so there's nothing too fancy in there. A couple of echo statements, a couple of pipes. So you should know Bash if you want to tackle them. And we would just want to improve the integration tests a little bit better to handle more edge cases, like what happens if there's no configuration map for the SLI provider defined, or should we install an SLI provider during the test, et cetera, et cetera. And in addition, we also want to have a test that uses SLIs that are not the default SLIs that are already provided by the SLI provider, but some custom SLIs. So in the case of Dynatrace, it could be calculated metrics. In the case of Prometheus, it could be a custom query string, for instance. All right, is anyone up for taking this one? If not, that's also fine, because actually that's one of the issues I wanted to do. So I'll assign it to myself. And as this is a co-production here right now, I'll hand it over to Johannes for the next issue.
But can you please stay? Yeah, please share your screen. The next issue is about, as I already mentioned, is about implementing the get endpoints in the CLI. In other words, providing the CLI commands to get the project stage service. When Christian, when you can you click on the issue, please? Because here we have written down all the commands that should be implemented. And when you go further down, you will also get the expected output, or you see the expected output of each command. The get, when you stay here, please, when you do a Keptn get projects, you get a list of all the projects, and there you get the name and integration date of the project. The same is true when you say just Keptn get project XYZ, or in this example, SockShop, then you just get the name and the creation date of this project. And when you do a Keptn get project SockShop -- output equals YAML, then you get the entire response from the, or you should show the entire response from the API. And this is also this is the response that also Florian showed us in his pull request, where you get all the information and metadata that is that correlates to this project. Yep.
I think, yeah, that's enough. There's a couple more details written down for services and stages. They work very similar.
Yeah, they are almost identical. Mm-hmm. And maybe one additional note regarding the implementation of the commands. They should be as generic as possible and not that specific to an entity, so that we can reuse most of its code.
Also, to add, we're trying to be very similar to what Kubernetes is doing with kubectl. It shouldn't make a difference whether you do a kubectl get pods or get deployments or get services. This should all just be an entity in the background.
Right, yeah. Who is up for this issue?
Hi, this is Christian. Hi.
Hi,
So,
Christian.
to be honest, I would like to help on this issue, but I'm not sure if you want to have my code in your Keptn core component. So it's
But this would be cool, Christian, to actually it would be cool that when you can work on that, because you also proposed the cap, and when you kind of provide the last task or implement the last task of this cap, it would be a cool story.
Yeah, okay. I try to. And I will beg you with questions like hell.
Yep, no problem.
It's also okay if you have a partial pull request for this, or if you have just implemented, like maybe get projects or something like that. Anyway, can you send me your GitHub name?
C. Heckelman.
Okay, I'm not sure if I can edit you here, else I will like this.
Yeah, that's
okay. Can you comment on the issue that you're going to take it? And then I can assign you after that, I think.
Will do.
Thanks. All right. I'll move that here because we'll assign that then.
Oh, could you paste the link to the issue in the chat so I don't need to search for it right now?
Yeah, sure.
Because
there we go. The next issue is related to Keptn's bridge. So with all the API endpoints that Florian has shown you and the output that Johannes has shown you basically now, we also want to make use of these API endpoints in Keptn's bridge. Right now, Keptn's bridge has implemented some of these endpoints in another way, directly accessing the configuration service, etc. And actually, with that pull request or with that task, we want to make it easier within Keptn's bridge to just reuse the existing public API that we have for querying a list of projects, stages, and services. I think there is not much else here other than that information. It's also linked to the other issue where we have some details about the API calls. Other than that, obviously, we have a very nicely documented Swagger UI for each of the API calls that should help in implementing this issue. Okay, is anyone up for this one?
Yeah, that's one for me, so I will take that one. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the next issue is also a good starter. It's a minor bug in the bridge where we show the wrong image or the wrong icon for a start evaluation event. As you can see here in the screenshot, it shows the icon with the info as the info icon, but it should be the traffic light should be shown there. It's just it's kind of a minor issue. It's bug related and also a very nice starter and getting started.
All you need to do basically is knowing Angular and TypeScript.
Yeah, since it's in the bridge, I will take that one as well.
Thank you, Armin. Okay, another one for Keptn's bridge. So basically right now in Keptn's bridge, we do have a lot of cloud events that we are showing as root events, problem detected, configuration change, deployment finished, but also service creation, tests finished. Depending on what your root event is, there's a lot of events being shown in here. And we have a popular request now that we can filter these, because sometimes you just want to look at configuration changes, or maybe you're a site reliability engineer and you just want to see the problem detected messages or something like that. So everything that's a root event should be able to be filtered. And yeah, that's something that we can implement here with a little filter button and a little menu that pops up where you can have we have checkboxes for each of the root events.
And also one remark to this feature: the selected types should not be stored or persistent. It's okay when they are stored in this session, and when you reopen the bridge, then it's okay when they are gone, the selection.
So by default, we will have all of them clicked, I guess?
Right.
Or, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since I reported that one, assign it to me.
Okay, thanks again. Is it my turn again?
Yeah.
I guess. So the next one goes with our integration tests. Right now, we have an integration test in Travis CI that's using a fixed version of Google Kubernetes Engine. I believe we're right now using 1.14. Yeah, that's what the issue says. And we want to extend our Travis CI tests to use multiple versions of Google Kubernetes to also double check that we didn't break any Kubernetes version support. So like right now we support 1.14 and 1.15, but with the upcoming 0.7 release, we also plan, or at least we want to investigate whether we support newer versions of Kubernetes, and that's the story behind the issue. Implementing it basically requires some knowledge about Travis CI, but other than that, should be fairly simple. Is anyone up for it? Right, else I would take that.
Okay, then we come to a couple of tasks regarding the use case for the manual approval story. And the first one is reading the approval strategy from the shipyard file, and depending on this configuration, sending out the proper approval triggered event. Here you can see an example of a shipyard that has the approval strategy configured. And the definition of done is that the gatekeeper service sends out an approval trigger depending on this configuration. And when you go a little bit further down, this table shows you the combinations that are supported and allowed. And there should also be tests implemented that verify those combinations and make sure that the correct event is sent out whenever the shipyard file is configured this way. All right. Any questions regarding this task or issue?
I can take it.
That's Andreas,
cool.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Thank you. I try to sort it in the right order that we also accept them, but it's a little bit buggy in the GitHub UI here. All right, the next one is also manual approval related. And this one is about changing MongoDB and configuration service. Essentially, we have open approval events basically there is an approval going on. It has not yet been approved, and we want to just collect all of these events in a special collection or a materialized view or whatever. And as soon as an approval finished event is received for such an approval, we obviously need to check if it's in the approval triggered and then remove it from the approval triggered collection. So essentially, it's just another state that we store somewhere. Who wants to do this?
I'll do it. Florian.
I'll do it. That's Florian. Thanks.
All right, and allow to retrieve all open approvals. Let me just Oh yeah, okay. It's about implementing the endpoint that allows you to fetch all the open approval events from the configuration service. In other words, this task has a dependency to the previous task, because when the table is there and the collection is there that holds all the open approvals, then the endpoint should be implemented on top that allows you to query those. Yeah. And then going further, the gatekeeper will take this information to decide whether to do the promotion or not, but this is on the next issue. This one is just all about implementing the API endpoint for fetching all the open approvals. Who wants to take this one?
Yes, sir.
All right, our configuration service master.
Thank you. Right, how are we in time? I think we have 9 minutes left. Should we go on? Yeah. So the next one is, as Johannes already mentioned, the follow-up basically. And it also means that we need to change the implementation in the gatekeeper and react on an approval finished event that then sends the configuration changed event for the current stage. So right now, this configuration changed event is automatically sent as soon as the evaluation in the current stage has finished successfully. And now this should obviously be a manual step in case that the manual approval is activated. And also, I just see that here in the definition of done, we need to check that the image tag from the approval finished event also matches a corresponding approval triggered event. So we don't want people to allow to just send in any image tag combination. It needs to be a combination that has already been approved, or right, where the approval has been triggered actually. Right, who wants to do this one?
If time permits, I can do it, but I can't guarantee it.
So let's see what is left actually. Okay. The question is, should we assign it to you, or should we just, actually we can assign it, and if you,
I mean, if anyone else, let's do it this way. I assign myself if I have time, and otherwise anyone else can grab this issue.
You can give it to me if you don't have the time.
Okay.
Well, we can assign multiple persons on an issue. You two just
all right.
Play it out as it works for you. Okay, and also kind of connected, so it depends, I think, is this one, Johannes?
Actually, it's not depending. Oh, it is. It is the final implementation of the entire story, because when we have the endpoint to get all the open approvals, and when we have the feature implemented in the gatekeeper to react on an approval finished event, then it should be possible to use the CLI to do this. And therefore, we need to introduce two commands. The first one is a Keptn get approval triggered events, and the second one is a Keptn send event approval finished, kind of to approve deployment. And based on these two commands, we can then finalize the implementation of the user story.
So this one assumes that the API is already available.
Right, the API.
Just a CLI task.
It's a CLI task. Yeah, but it assumes that the API is there and the gatekeeper can react on an approval finished event.
Sounds simple enough for me. I'd like to take it if nobody else wants to.
Then I can jump in as a backup.
That's nice. Thanks. I
mean, there is the one or other to be defined, as I can see here. I think let's pair together all three of us to finalize or to discuss the open to be defined. Take me there as well.
I think it will be clearer once we have implemented the API and the gatekeeper functionality. All right.
Cool.
So then we have another one for Keptn's Bridge. It basically is also, we didn't label it as a good first issue, but if you have some knowledge of Angular, it should be fine. Essentially, we want to create a menu on the left side where we split the current view, which has the stages and the services on one page. We want to split it into an environment screen with the stages and a services screen with the services and respective cloud events. So essentially, it's just splitting one screen into two screens and implementing a menu. There are obviously follow-up issues that rely on this one to be implemented, but it should be fairly simple if anyone wants to do that.
Yeah, you can assign that one to me.
Okay, thank you, Ermin. So I think we're now already with 12 issues assigned. We'll see if we have any more people opting in. So essentially, we have another issue in Bridge. It's actually the follow-up issue to the one that we just described. Can you talk about it, Johannes?
Yeah, sure. When we have the environment screen and when we have the stages, the overview of the stages moved into the environment screen, then the stages should be clickable. In other words, when you click on one of those stages, then you should get more information about the stage itself. As you can see here on the right side, you should get meta information about the stage, where you see the deployment strategy and the test strategy that is configured. And underneath there you see a list of all the services that are running in this stage. Yeah, all the services and with the image, the current image. Yep, that's pretty much it.
So I think this is a little bit more implementation work to do.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean,
yeah. Do we have anyone up for it in this working meeting? Else, obviously, all the remaining tasks, etc. We don't need to do that this week, or we can also just discuss them in the next week meeting if no one is up for this one. Or if anyone wants to take it on demand, that's also fine.
Yeah, I think that will stay in the backlog then for now, since I have already several tasks, and if nobody else is joining in there, I will take that one maybe next week.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
It's actually also very nice to see. We can filter, and you already have 4 tasks already assigned. So yeah. I guess as the time is coming to an end, we'll skip the last 2. We have assigned 12 issues. Thank you for all your contributions that you're going to make, hopefully. Is there anything you want to add, Johannes?
Yeah, I want to add that nobody should fear some pressure that this must be done by next week. This is not. It would be cool when we get all those tasks finished, but when there is the case that a bug comes in or another issue needs to be fixed first, then yeah, we are flexible enough to shuffle around and to change the order, and don't feel the pressure to get everything done. I mean, in 1 week we will kind of take a look on this column, and we will ask how it goes, how the progress is on certain tasks. But when it's not done, then yeah, it's fine. I mean,
obviously, you can also present, if you have an issue, if you have a pull request, you can present that pull request next week. Just contact us via Slack or write a comment in the Google Doc, I think, if you have access to it. And yeah, with that being said, I would like to hand it back to Jürgen to wrap
actually,
up.
I think there is not a lot of thing for me to do. Thanks everyone for joining. Big shout out to the whole Keptn development team because of the new release. So actually, in Austria, it's kind of a practice to have a release beer after you successfully release. So maybe you can have a beer. Oh, you already have your mug on the table. Great. Thanks everyone for joining. We will meet again next week, same time, same Zoom link. What you can do is just as a quick reminder, in the Keptn community page or on the Keptn community page, it's github.com/keptn/community. There is also a meeting calendar, and you can subscribe to this calendar so you can download it and import it in your own calendar to always stay up to date. So thanks so much for joining and see you all next week. Have a nice evening.
See ya.
Have a nice one.
Bye.
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 Bye.